Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Please let me know if you can see me okay and hear me okay. If you don't see me, please make an appointment with your ophthalmologist. If you don't hear me, I would be an ear doctor, I believe. Ear, nose, and throat. So, okay. Just, 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 just a moment. I'm sorry. I can't keep a straight face. All right. I guess you can, can't you? Ah, all right. So please don't all answer at the same time. one at a time. Where the hell are you guys? There's no response. Or maybe there's a delay. Okay. So we have, do we? Can you hear me? Anyone? Please respond. Hello. All right. I won't say anything unless I hear back from you guys that you can hear and see me. And M, whoever you are, please don't forget age, gender, where you're tuning in from. It says, hello, Guru Mehran. I can hear it. Thank you very much for that. But let me know your age, gender, and where you're tuning in from, dear. as I have bloody hell mentioned it up there in black and white. It says, "Hello, everyone. Please let me know your age, gender, and where you are tuning in from, which city and country," in brackets, if, if you will. So now, get to it, guys. And we have E. What's the day today? Abbreviation day. We have E and we have MA. And what else? HDAT. So, and we have Royal Doyle here. It says, "Mail, hello, Meran. I have missed you. Mail 26 from what is MO? Missouri. Am I right? Missouri, is it? Well, good, Royal Doyle. Good of you to be here. I'm delighted to see you here. Yeah, you've been absent. I just now do once a week because you know it just doesn't have more. I don't see that many people asking for it, and when I'm here once a week, I'd expect like 700 people here, but we have six, so we're what 694 short, which means there's not much of a demand for what I do, or perhaps the videos, it's about over 3,000 on the channel, takes care of most of your needs, and people don't necessarily come to the live stream. So I do it once a week. Even then, we don't have much callers. However, the Skype appointments are quite a bit, so that's good news. Which means people mostly like to talk private rather than in these streams. Anyhow, I'm here and see what I can do for anyone. So let's go to E. E says, "How are you, sir? Thank you very much." And she says, "I'm 40 years old from India, female." Thank you for that. And says, "Sir, I have harm OCD." It's harmful. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of OCD you have. You need to understand what OCD is and go to the roots of what it is rather than thinking that you're supposed to comply or follow it, or it has an advice or a mandate or a meaning to you when it urges you. And you have to understand the cycle of OCD, how it starts and where it ends if you don't deal with it and if you don't educate yourself about this OCD and OCD subsets. OCD subsets are anything that has to do with OCD, such as responsibility OCD, pedophile OCD, HOCD, sexual inclination OCD, harm OCD. All these are subsets of OCD. But the roots of it is all the same, and the mechanism it is all the same in the way of understanding it and learning how to rewire your brain. Look, whatever you do in life, brain learns and takes cues from that what you do a lot of. The two ends of the synaptic neurons need to be able to pass along information in the form of neurotransmitters. And for that reason, they will create bridges between the two ends of two synaptic neurons. So information can go through one synaptic neuron and then jump over to the next synaptic neuron and continue on to create a pathway and close the circuit for you to be able to communicate to the brain that certain behavior or certain activity should be encouraged and you become good at it. Remember from the old days, they always said practice makes perfect. It was actually a scientific thing, but nobody really knew the scientific end of it. It just meant the more you do things, the more bridges between synaptic neurons are created to pass along that information that makes you to become better at that thing that you're doing a lot of. Practice makes perfect, therefore. Which means if you play piano a lot, the brain learns that you want to be good at this. In order to comply to your interest and subliminal order by seeing what you do, it properly prepares the system to comply to your wishes of being good at that. You may not really want to be good at something, but because you do it over and over, brain thinks because you're doing it over or you're reacting to it in a certain way, it is the way that it should promote. So it provides opportunity for you to be good at whatever you do, it is that you do a lot of, whether you want it or not, whether you agree with it or not. But somehow you're doing a lot of it. Whether you're playing piano a lot of, you become good at it. Whether you're playing tennis a lot, you become good at it. Whether you stick your finger in your nose for some reason, whether you touch the light switch 50 million times, it doesn't care what your reasoning in your head is. For example, you may think that I got to touch that switch 10 times instead of one, because if I don't, my father may die or something may happen to someone that I love. So the brain doesn't understand why you're doing it, but it understands that you're doing it. And it encourages and reinforces that what you're doing, and then attaches that reason that you think is your encouragement and your motivation to do it to that movement. So it creates some kind of a reason according to what you think it will happen if you don't do this or if you do this. So it gets trained and rewired according to repetitions of what you do. Now, the science of it is that in midbrain basal ganglia, there's a place called the striatum. In the striatum, there are three rings or three circles right on top of each other. They're connected pretty much, close proximity to each other. One is reward finding center. One is goal finding center. One is reward finding center. One is habit center. Now, every time that you are trying to fulfill a certain mandate or certain thing for certain reason that you think you should accomplish it, it's goal finding. For example, Dr. Grable, through her postgraduate studies student, Carl Smith, she pioneered the theory of a number of active actions to the brain represents only one action. In other words, when they did an experiment on a rat and they played a tone and they trained the rat that every time this tone, this bell is ringing with that particular notation tone, the rat would go forward, make a left turn, go to a chocolate drink, chocolate milk. And then the other tone, when it would ring, the rat would learn to go forward, make a right turn, go to sugar water. This was goal finding for the rat. But the result of this goal finding, because they are on top of the reward center and habit center, every time the rat went up with this tone, certain tone, made the left turn to the chocolate milk, it represented a satisfaction because you got the chocolate milk. And probably, as Dr. Schwartz explains, in the mind of the rat says, chocolate milk, wow. Which means a feeling of accomplishment and delightment, is that the word, would come to the rat. The chocolate milk. That chocolate milk was the reward center, which would, because of the chocolate milk, it would feel great, and dopamine was secreted. So goal finding was to find the chocolate, then would secrete dopamine. That's a reward finding, goal finding, reward finding. And then the experiment continued that after 1,000 times doing this, no longer the rat was doing it for the prize, for the goal finding, for the reward. Why? Because they introduced a certain kind of a drug into these chocolate milk or the sugar water, that every time the rat actually got to it, it made him vomit. But because before they put the drug in, they tried this 1,000 times, so reward at the goal finding center, finding a chocolate milk, doing it so many times, and every time it got the reward, dopamine. And because they did that 1,000 times, it now stimulated the habit center, and now it was its habit. Why? Because even though when they introduced the bitter drug that made him vomit, he would still go to the up to the left if this tone was rang, and would go to the chocolate milk, even though it would make him vomit. Why? Because it was now his habit. So the problem with OCD is that if you continuously allow it, it is not, you're no longer captured by it because of the OCD, because of the compulsion, because you think I have to do, otherwise my father will die, to touch the light switch. You're doing it because it has become your habit. So regardless of what, even if that switch would have some kind of a disgusting material on it, you would still touch it because it's now your habit to touch it. It's not no longer because your father will die. No longer because you'll get a prize of any kind, if that was the case. Because you've done it so many times, it's now has stimulated the habit center, has become your habit. And that's when it becomes very difficult to get rid of the OCD. That's why it's important for you to educate yourself and understand how OCD comes to be, and that is total bullshit, it has nothing to do with the reality of the world. It's just a make-believe that the brain falls into it. And because brain's world is in virtual world, it's not an actual reality, physical world. It's in virtuality. The brain itself is in virtuality, neurons and signals and all that, electromagnetic signals. It's all in virtual world. So when it conjures up an idea or a suggestion, it can't tell virtuality from actuality because itself is built and living in a virtual world. Therefore, what it conjures up as a thought or intrusive thought or whatever else it may be, belief, it thinks it's also real because it says, I'm in virtual world and I exist somehow. It's aware of itself. Therefore, whatever else that is not actual or physical could also exist. So it believes it. Therefore, it becomes very difficult to make it understand that make you understand that these are bullshit. It is a make-believe that the brain has created, and you are following the brain, having been duped all your life that brain is intellect, and thinking that what brain says or thinks is got legitimacy and it's got intellectual properties in it, and it's coming from a smart end of the world. It's not. Brain is very stupid, has no intellect. In fact, in the experiment that Dr. Speary and in specific Dr. Penfield of Montreal in 1960s, I believe, I think, they did was that they tried to operate on the brain. He had operated on the brain 1,000 times, and they tried to localize centers of activity of the brain. For example, they stimulated one part of the brain, occipital part, and a certain kind of a light was being stimulated or felt in the eyes. So the patient would say, "Oh, yeah, I see some kind of light." So they knew they can localize a light center, vision center, or they could localize a movement center, motor center, like the patient's hand would move while they were operating. And why they could do that? Because brain doesn't have any nerves ending in it as far as pain is concerned. So in other words, they would, through anesthesia, they would go through, break the bone and go through. But once they're in there, the person would not feel pain by having probing the brain. So that's why they could actually have the patient um, awake while they were doing the experiment. So they could localize several things, such as speech center, but they could never localize intellectual center, political center, math center, consciousness center. So the brain has no intellect to think that there is a localizable intellect center in the brain. So therefore, what brain says, oh, it's got message or logic or it's a deity. No, brain is dumb shit, doesn't know anything. It's just functioning as a machine, and therefore you have to understand what you think you're doing for a certain reason, whether it's washing hand OCD, touching the light switch OCD, checking the oven, checking the door, or responsibility OCD, or harm OCD. All of these have no basis of reason or actuality or truth or fact or necessity to them at all, make no goddamn difference to any kind of a thing that you're going through in life. Like, if I don't do this, something bad will happen, or I have to do this to feel great. It's all about the habit that you have created, and it's no longer for any purpose. It's not about beginning of OCD when there's an obsession, then you do a compulsion. The obsession, oh, my hands are dirty, so I do the compulsion, I gotta wash it. But if you keep doing it, every time you wash it, say, oh, okay, I'm clean. Dopamine is secreted. And when you do it 1,000 times, after a while, you're not no longer doing it because you think the hand is dirty. You're doing the compulsion to get the dopamine, to feel, get the dopamine. And then after a while, you're no longer doing it to get the dopamine. You're doing it because it becomes your habit. As we talked about, reward center, goal finding center, reward center, and habit center. Once you do the goal finding center, or once you do the compulsion, it also stimulates the reward center and at the same time the habit center, until the time that the habit takes over. And it's all because you have created this condition in yourself to do it, which then you have to connect that condition to health issues that it could bring for you and snap out of it. Because then they found out, once you have a habit, the only way or the best way to get out of it is to connect it to the effect of that habit to your health. And that helps you to get out of it. So now you need to understand that you got to educate yourself about OCD, rather than thinking that this harm OCD or whatever else subset of OCD it is that you're dealing with is actually got any logic or any merit or any good for you in any shape or form. Anyhow, you guys understand that you can always reach me on my site, mindthatseekstruth.com, mindthatseekstruth.com. seekstruth.com. You can make an appointment for a Skype consultation and we'll chat about what's concerning you one-on-one on Skype. All right. I hope that general information was helpful for you to find out what it is. And let's see what else E says. E says, in short what? Says, but those who, I guess these are all before I did the discussion, but those who are not connecting are depriving themselves. I'm missing one sentence, one message here because I can't connect them. I have, how are you, sir? And then I have, I'm 40 years old from India, female. Then I have, sir, I have harm OCD. Then I have E in short. It doesn't mean anything to me. Something missing. Then it says, but those who are not connecting are depriving themselves. Again, I don't understand. And then he says, I connect negative news, etc., with my dear ones. Like if I pass across a car, I try to not think of them as I feel it can harm them, and there is not stop of linking. I link negative news, actually everything. It doesn't kind of understand, but I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about. Because when you're passing by a car, you imagine the danger that the car could have, and then you think that you passed by a car, the thought of a car harming your loved one would come to your mind. Is that what you're saying? Because what you're describing to me is not really clear for me to know exactly what is going on in your head. If you will please take your time, put it on several different segments, and explain to me as if I don't know what you're talking about. Not that, oh, he knows what I'm talking about, so I just say shortly. No, elaborate exactly so I understand. Otherwise, I can't guess it. Okay, so I go to Doyle until E does that. And Royal Doyle says, let me change this for a second. Okay, that should do it. There we go. Doyle says, there's a girl who is just a friend that I care about very much. She's going through a personal struggle and doesn't want to tell me what it is. I don't know how to handle that. What's there to handle for you? She's trying to express to you that it's something she doesn't want to share. Why do you think you're responsible to know what she's going through so you can help her? Well, you can't be more interested in helping her than she is interested to get help. If she's not expressing that, leave it alone. And you say, it's a friend, right? So why are you so eager to help a friend when she's not asking for it? Doyle says, she usually tells me about her personal struggle, but right now she's climbing up and it bothers the heck out of me. If it doesn't bother her, why does it bother you? Perhaps it's not a real friend. I mean, just a friend. It's more than a friend to you. At least you're fooling yourself that is just a friend. Or you want to score kudos with her, like you want to be there, helpful. So in order, maybe you expect more closeness through your service or your care towards her. Because why are you so interested to be into her personal life if she hasn't volunteered it out? Maybe she feels she doesn't want to jeopardize the friendship by telling you certain things that it would give her a different image in your mind. Maybe it's also important for her to keep the distance so she can have the certain kind of image that she likes to have in your mind about her as a friend, not as someone that you may antagonize or you may find it unreasonable what she's done or whatever it is. I think you are you're in need of feeling a very good person. I am, and you've chosen her to prove that to yourself or in front of the watcher, whatever it is that you think is watching your behavior in life, which is your own thoughts, that you're a good person. So don't you think that's a bit selfish that you're actually trying to use her to feel good and have a good image in the eyes of the watcher, whoever it is that you've created is watching you and judging your behavior in this world, possibly? Otherwise, just leave it. You've expressed to her that you're there for her, and she knows it. You've been there for her before, and she knows it. So it's not like you're a stranger, but she doesn't want to say it. Meaning, don't pry anymore because she knows you're there. And if she knew that this would be beneficial to her by sharing this with you, she would have. But perhaps she thinks it would take her image away, and that's valuable to her. She doesn't want you to look at her the way that you might look at her after she tells you what's bugging her. Maybe it's very personal. Why do you think that she is not entitled to have certain kind of a real personal issues that she doesn't want to share with you or anybody else? Or maybe not with you. Why do you think she should be so close to you? Or you're so entitled? Are you trying to collect for all the services that you've given to her in the past by being there for her? So now you say, I'm entitled to know everything about you. It's no different than expecting her to say, well, my ass crack itches and I got to let you know what I'm doing. That's very personal. She doesn't want to do it. Maybe she wants to go and, you know, I don't know, rub herself to the door instead of actually having her finger doing this so you could see it. Maybe she wants to do it in a different room or in the bathroom or somewhere that it would be private. There are certain things that is private, and just because she's not telling you doesn't mean she doesn't think of you as a friend or doesn't mean that you've been demoted. Just means maybe it's something personal. I don't know, whatever it is. Why do you care? Maybe it's something very private. Maybe she loves someone. Maybe she loves you. I don't know. But trying too much is just satisfies you. It's not helping her. If it was helping her, she would have told you. If she thought it would help her, she would have told you. Because she's the most important person in life, in her life. So if she thinks that her problems would be alleviated by telling you, she would have. But perhaps there's a reason she doesn't want to tell you. Why do you have to know that reason? Why do you have to be so into her as far as her private and personal preferences are? Leave it. If she does, at the time that she does, she knows you're there, she may share it. And if she doesn't feel it's appropriate or that she doesn't wish it, she wouldn't. So leave it. If you're there for her, then let her be. And Doyle says, and she doesn't communicate well at all. Well, then don't be a teacher. You have no mandate to try to, it's a bit too much interest, isn't it? So it's not just a friend. You might have some kind of a, interest of the third kind. And if that's true, then just back off, let her breathe. she will decide whenever it's time, or if it is at all time for you to know certain things. So look at yourself. There's certain things that you don't want her to know about you. So that doesn't mean that you don't care about her or you don't think she's a good friend. It just means that you don't want everybody to know. Doesn't matter how close they are to you. You just don't want them to know. Same thing with her. You want to score points on her account. That I'm your advisor, so keep me in that echelon. No, that's your selfishness. Let it go. All right. Robert Tigpen says hi. Hello, Robert. Robert, age, gender, where are you tuning in from? Well, I can tell you, man. Oh, Roberta. It's not Robert. Sorry about that. So Roberta. Then I would know. I would want to know, because sometimes Roberta in some nationalities is man's name or it's woman's name. So I don't know. So age, gender, where you're tuning in from, please. MA say, can I force goal and habit center to be more active, efficient than the reward center? No, habit needs a motivation to become a habit. Before it becomes habit, you need the dopamine. You need that reward to be encouraged to continue getting that rewards, so it will have enough momentum and time repeated to have become the habit. It's like saying, can I have a big, huge bonfire without the actual um, kindlings and the spark and the fire, the little fire that starts the whole thing? That little fire got to be bigger and bigger and bigger in the process of it until it becomes that big bonfire. So it's part of the process of having a big bonfire to have those kindlings and more of fire and oxygen and so on. It continues so it can actually glow. If you just put a big blow at it, it will go and then nothing, right? Slows down. But if it's continuously oxygen going to it, you fan it or you add kindlings and all that, which is all the dopamine and all the rewards that is being accumulated, then the bonfire, then the habit, forms. So it's part of the process of habit for it to be stimulated by the compulsion in order to get the dopamine, and then continuation of that will eventually have enough time repetitious to create that habit. That's what I think. Okay, we have Dudley Lucky says, hi, Meron. Hello, Dudley. Remind me, guys. I know most of your names. I mean, the ones who've been here before, but I don't remember age, gender, and where you're tuning in from, because most of the names are not necessarily names. They're screen names, so I can't identify it easily. Undead Nerd says, male 16 USA says, my intrusive thoughts are doing so much better. They're getting better every day. I'm doing great. Good for you. I'm proud of you. Delighted. Continue what you've been doing to create that condition. E says, in regards to the harm OCD, says the thing is, I link negative news, etc., with my people. One, if I pass across a car, I try not to think of my own people, because any image of them in my head at the time of crossing the car can harm them. Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, it's bullshit. Because You see, since dawn of life, I guess, for human beings, for our species, we've been searching for security, for the physical security and later on psychological security. At the beginning, it was just physical security. It was very important because I don't know how many years ago, thousands and thousands of years ago, a million years ago, whatever, the caveman would have something, and food or whatnot, when it became scarce, or depending on where they were being attacked to get from maybe some other place, somebody else would come in and take their food or take their woman. So they decided, and if the guy was strong, would fend them off. So the attackers would say, okay, that doesn't work. Maybe I gotta have another person to be two when I attack. So when they attack by two, this person saw, well, they're gonna take my food and stuff, and maybe someday my woman. So he now gets another somebody else to together fend off the attackers. So now it's two against two. So they increase to three, they increase to three, and so on and so forth. And as they try to create safety and security, they actually create more destruction power. Why? Because now three, four people can destroy a lot more than one person could. So while these people were each trying to increase their force for getting what they want and for defending themselves, protecting themselves, this seeking security, the very concept of seeking security, it actually caused more destruction in the world as the roots of this whole thing. And since that time, we were all interested in certainty, that I'm safe. This business of certainty, eventually later on, when we ended up having this sophisticated brain 40,000 years ago, until then, things were okay. But once we had this sophisticated brain, which now, in addition to the security that we needed for our bodies, we also needed now psychological security for the brain to rest, because it was always overactive about dangers. Since when we didn't have this sophisticated brain and we were operating on a stem brain, reptilian brain, and which was all instinctive, amygdala reacting, giving us danger signals to run away when there was a twitch of a break of branches, which would signify there's a dinosaur coming or a wild animal is coming. So the humans would run away through instinct. That instinct stayed, amygdala stayed active throughout the history. And then psychological security was also added when we were having this kind of a brain. So now the amygdala started sending all kinds of danger signals to protect both the psyche and the physical portion of our body, which in some cases becomes very much overactive. And it starts sending danger signals when actually there is no danger. But the brain sends that signal, amygdala sends it, and the rest of it reacts to it, and the brain makes the body reacts to these non-existing danger signals as if they are real, and the body will act to it towards it as if it's a real one, because brain is so powerful, it can make the body react to a signal or to a command, even though if there's no danger and necessity for that command or that signal. So the body reacts as if there is actually a danger, because the brain induces this belief that there is a danger, and the body believes it because body follows the mind in that way. And I call mind, while mind and brain are two totally different things, but for the ease of discussion, I call it mind. So this need for certainty about security has a opposite reaction, which is worry. When you love something so much and you want to protect it so much, naturally the intrusive thought of it not being safe comes to the brain. Have you ever had any problem thinking anything that you don't care about could be harmed? No. You don't care about it to begin with. So there is no question or condition in your brain that, oh, I have to protect it. Because you don't care about it. So there's no anxiety about it. But anything that you love so much and is so important, sacred to you in your life, could be anything at all. A handbag, a child, niece, aunt, parents, husband, wife, daughter, whatever it is that you love, your identity, your sexual orientation, your home, your car, anything that you love so much, there is going to be a fear of losing it. Not because it's possible to lose it necessarily, definitely not about your inclinations and sexual inclinations and other things that are inside your psyche and personal, physically. But anything that you love and hold sacred, there is a fear of losing it. It's natural because we are about protecting what we have in order to create that security that we've been after for millions of years. And then in order to create that psychological security for our brain, since we were given this sophisticated brain, which is very helpful to us, but also it's a curse because it malfunctions and just ruins everything and turns us to a crazy person while we think it's true. Everything that it conjures up is true, but in reality, and others can see that we're just looking and behaving crazy because it's not true. In reality and actuality, it's not true, but the brain has the power to make us feel that it is true. And that belief is why you do all these crazy things and you suffer. That because I'm passing by a car and I thought of the image or the name or the existence of my beloved, of whoever in my family, then they could come to harm because I thought a negative thing about them. You have to understand that you need to separate brain from you. Whatever brain does, it doesn't mean you're doing it. Brain is not you, you're not the brain. So when it conjures up such thoughts like this, you need to consider it as a crazy person is making crazy suggestions which has no basis for truth, and that's all you think about it. So you say, thank you very much, but it's funny. How could I'm here and my thought, if my thought were so powerful that thinking about passing a car could put my father in danger, so why the hell is not my thought able to, when I think I have $1 million in the bank, and I go and see there's $1 million in the bank? I mean, if it can work for this, it can work for that. You can't say, no, it's a specialty and power. It's no. Is it capable? Is it having a certain kind of a mythical power that it can actually make something that you think or conjure up come true about harming a loved one when you think of the name or presence of a loved one in the face of some kind of a possible danger that they're not even there? If it can do that, that means your brain has such power that can create some significant happenings that is magical. So if that's the case, why don't you unleash it on peace in the world and stop all these goddamn governments that are trying to take our freedoms and away and harm us through all these shit that is going on in the world, the fascism and totalitarianism and injecting us with chemicals and forcing and coercing people to get that, otherwise they lose their job and all the shit that is going on. Why don't you unleash it on that? Why don't you command that you will have $1 million in the bank? Why don't you command all the sufferings would stop? Why don't you command all the hunger would stop? Why don't you command peace for the world? It doesn't. Why? Because the brain doesn't have such powers. If it doesn't have such powers, then it doesn't have such powers for the things that you are affected by. If you logically look at it, you can see that it's the power of the brain that is making you believe something that doesn't exist. Whether the amygdala is sending danger signals that such danger doesn't exist, but just sends a signal, and then your body reacts to it because the body just takes order from the signals that is sent by the brain, doesn't know any better, and reacts to that commands like a robot. But in fact, there is no danger. So either what was I going to say? These things are very volatile when you're on the move. You lose the train of thoughts. So if the brain sends that kind of a signal and you follow it, but there is no such danger, therefore it means there's a malfunction in the brain, and these malfunctions are known to psychologists and psychotherapists. The science has proven that these are beliefs, and there are three things involved in a belief: the real estate of the neurons and availability of the temporal lobes, real estate which has all these neurons available for, and then there are neurotransmitters such as serotonin and so on involved, dopamine, serotonin involved, and then there is a gene called VMAT2, which are all, the three of them working together are responsible for belief. A thought becomes a belief. Like religiosity. Any religiosity has these three elements that I just loosely described because I don't remember exactly how I researched it. It was a long time ago. But these three elements are responsible for religiosity. That's why we believe something without any evidence for it. It somehow a thought becomes a belief. And once it becomes a belief, that's a danger. And we should know that we didn't have these problems that you're talking about right now, including yours, when we didn't have this kind of a brain 40,000 years ago. Before that, we were on stem brain, and which means we did not have capability of thinking or speaking. And when we couldn't think, we didn't have these problems because these are all conjured up by thoughts. And thoughts are the roots of all problems. So if you understand that there's no reality and actuality to what you're thinking when you're passing by a car, but it's a thought that creates certain kind of a attention and belief, and then you're in trouble because now you've believed your thoughts. The problem starts when you believe thoughts and you don't let thoughts to be thoughts and understand them as they're just thoughts, like dust in the wind or just wind. There's no substance to it. But when you believe something that doesn't have substance to it is substance itself, then you're messed up. Then you need to bring your attention back that, listen, this is a thought and I should not believe thoughts because thought itself has no actuality. It's a virtual thing. It's an idea. It's a suggestion. It is not actuality and has no chance ever to become actual, because the only thing that I can allow something to happen is not my brain. It's me to allow a thought to be turned into action by my initiation of turning that idea, suggestion into action. Otherwise, no thought by itself ever, no matter how many times it pursues and persists, cannot become an action unless you help it to become an action. You turn it into action. By itself, this has no danger whatsoever. Doesn't matter how many times a thought of cars, your parents or loved ones, danger, ideas, news, none of that shit. Nothing happens. It's just your need to keep everything certainly secure for your loved ones, and naturally fear of losing it creates these insecurity and fear, which then it prevails into believing that something bad could happen to them, but nothing will. And nothing has, just because you thought of something. If there was some kind of a power that you had, you'd be very wealthy, because people would line up, say, please think of this problem of mine, go away, and please think of this problem to go to that person that I hate, and all these things. But you're doing that to yourself, and none of them are true. So you better understand that you're not the brain, and brain is not you. And the idea and suggestion is just an idea, suggestion, virtual world. None of them is an actual world. And you should free yourself from all these things by understanding that the brain has no such power. Brain has no intellect, has no message, it's no deity, and brain is not you. You're not the brain. So what the brain conjures up is brain's thoughts, and it's not your thoughts, and it cannot turn into any action whatsoever just because it showed up in the screen of your head. It's like saying, I have a television, and when there is a scene or somebody is doing something wrong in that scene, where they're harming somebody, or I don't know, mowing the lawn or something, then the lawn in my home would be mowed too. Or if something is happening, harm happening on the screen of the TV, that means it's going to happen to me. Or thinking that the program that I'm watching, the movie that I'm watching on TV, because it shows in the screen of my TV, that means I made it myself in my home. I produced it. No, you just have the capability of receiving these signals from the stations that are sending these videos and movies and programs. But it doesn't mean you have any responsibility towards them just because you can see and receive these messages. It doesn't mean that you have any responsibility, or any of them could become a reality to you just because you saw it. And same thing, if you imagine or think of something dangerous, that doesn't mean just because it could show up and present itself on the screen of your head, it could actually turn into reality. Just sorry, guys. Is it impolite? So just because you have the capability of seeing these images or suggestions in the screen of your head, that doesn't mean they have any actuality to them. But you have the capability of imagining things, and some of us imagine more than we should. And that's the end of it. Nothing else is there. These are all thoughts, and thoughts really have no actuality. If you separate these two, then you'll be resting, relaxing. Say, okay, I don't care what it comes to my head. None of them has any power to do anything, because if it did, I would use the power of my head for some other things that I really need to happen in my life. It doesn't, unless you put an action to it. All right. Yeah. You don't need to do any of the compulsions ever again, because it's no different than any other thing in OCD you want to get rid of. Like, let's say you think you got to touch the light switch 50 times, otherwise your father dies, or something bad will happen, or you won't pass your exam at school. I had that. And eventually I started saying, okay, if I do it 10 times, it'll be okay. Then I said, of course, I knew all along it's stupid, yeah, but we kind of do the compulsion. So I said, what if I do it 8 times, not 10? Let's see what happens. 8 times, still safe. Nothing happened. Which, of course, nothing would have happened, but this is, what the brain goes through, right? So I said, okay, what about I do 4 times? Do 4 times. Nothing happened. So what about if I do 3 times? So now from 10, I'm to 3. Pretty good. Everything is okay. I don't have to check the oven 10 times. Once. So I touch the light switch only when I need to turn it on or turn it off. I was a kid. Good. Nobody died. Nothing happened. And so you retrack it retrain the brain to believe in something else now. Just as it's been able to believe some cockamamie idea that somebody would get hurt if I don't touch this light switch 10 times, you can also retrain it that somebody could hurt if I touch this more than once. Because it's all a belief. None of them has any. So whether you touch it one time or two times, nothing happens. Whether you don't touch it 10 times, nothing would happen. So then you can retrain that nothing will happen if I don't touch this more than what I need to touch it. Nothing would happen if I don't wash my hand 5 times and wash it 2 times. And you try it, and in actuality, you see nothing did happen. And then little by little, you rewire and retrain through neuroplasticity, and all these synaptic neurons that have been created bridge between them in order to make you really good at doing all these mental jargon and all these compulsions. Then you not doing it, just as I have it explained in how to delete your memory. Just as when you want to be good at something, you got to do a lot of it and more bridges between synaptic neurons are created. In the same way, when you don't play piano, when you don't do what you used to do a lot of, when you sleep, the brain shrinks about 60% to about 60%. And then glial cells go around and check and see which synaptic neurons are not being used anymore. The ones that was preparing you to become a good pianist because you were playing a lot and you're not playing a lot anymore, it notices that they're not being used. So it marks them with the protein CQ1. And then when you sleep, microglial cells go and find these CQ1 marks on these bridges and destroys them. Why? Because it says, I destroy what is not being used, so my owner, my person, my boss, you, can now use it for other things that he or she wants to learn. So what is not used is going to be destroyed. So when you don't keep doing these businesses or paying attention to these thoughts that show up, then through neuroplasticity, it learns that these kind of reactions is no longer, or these kind of thoughts that you've been doing and you became really good at thinking about these things, you're not following it. You're not following the usual cycle of your thinking when these thoughts show up in your head. And then they start learning that it's not being used, so it'll be marked, and the habit that you had will now be less and less and less until no longer there are enough synaptic neurons to allow this behavior to continue, and it cuts down on it. So through neuroplasticity, which is in the same way that you can become good at something, you can also become bad at something. Meaning if you keep doing it, you become good at it by more bridges between synaptic neurons are created. When you don't do what you've been doing a lot of, then the brain knows and goes to clean out what you were really good at and make you not so good at by taking those bridges off of those synaptic neurons, making them available for you to use them for something else that you want to be good at. And in turn, you're not expert as you used to be in these compulsions, in these thought process, in these negative thoughts, in these fears, and in these sort of things, because you have conditioned yourself now through neuroplasticity differently as you were conditioned before, which was detrimental to your well-being and health and balance. So just as you become good at something, you can also not become good at something by rewiring your brain through your behavior and reaction toward these thoughts. And then, of course, I have all the other videos that you can research and find out how you react to these thoughts and so on. Or again, you can go on my site, mind@seekstruth.com, make an appointment. And for new people, new clients, make an appointment for 1 hour. I'll add another half an hour on me. We'll have an hour and a half to discuss what's concerning you one-on-one on Skype. All right. Tommy C says, hi, Mehran. Tommy C, age, gender, where you tuning in from? I'll come back to you. And we have Kuro says, "Oh, he's live." Yes, I am live. I've been alive since 1953. And I don't intend to go anywhere unless I have no choice. And, who knows? And Kuro says, "It's good to see you. Thank you, dear." Says, "Thank you for streaming. I finally feel at peace again. Last relationship was hell." Okay. And don't forget, let me know your age, gender, and where you're tuning in from. Uh, Guys, please do that as a default. Art Polamo says male US 29. Thank you for that, Art. And Art says, oh, let's see, before Art, we have a bunch of other people. We have Sigla says, "Do you like sociology?" You know, it's not an apple to like it or not like it. It's part of life, I guess. All right. Royal Doyle says, "I'm not at all seeking anything from trying to help her besides just to help her," because it's not a help anymore. It's prying. You offer your help to a friend, one time, two times, three times, you've done that, I'm sure. If she takes it, good. If she doesn't, leave her alone. You got to find out what is your motivation. Constantly want to pry in there. Why are you so interested in her that you think, I just want to help her? Why do you want to help her? Go into it. Why do I want to help her more than she wants me to help her? Why is she not taking the opportunity or asking my help for? Why is it that I insist to want to help her? Why? What do I want from her? There is something you want from her, whether recognition that you're such a good person, or you want to have sex with her, or you want to be more than friend with her, you want to get closer to her, you like her, or simply you want to get this recognition that, oh, I'm such a good person, I help people. There is something you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't be insisting. This is not my way of being negative towards you or trying to diminish your intention or character at all. No, I'm just trying to tell you, go deep in it, find out for yourself, why is it so important for me that to the point that it bothers me if I can't help her, if she doesn't let me help her. You will find out there's something you want. You may not see it, you may not want to admit to it, but there's something that you want, whether all what we talked about, intimacy, more friendship, closer friendship, or recognition of someone because you lack certain kind of a maybe confidence or you need certain assurance, people to consider you such a good person, such a helpful person. There is something that you want. When you find that, you'll be free from it. Because why should you be in pain when you want to help someone? Someone says, I'm okay, I don't want it. Why should you be in pain? Because by her not accepting your help, you're not able to get what you wanted to gain out of this. What is that thing that you want to gain? Then you'll know. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying it's a bad thing you want to get. But I'm saying there is something. Figure out what that something is, because that's causing you to feel pain and be uncomfortable. Not because you can't help it, because if you can't help it, you can't get that satisfaction. That's something that makes you feel good. Figure out what that is. All right. And Art says, worried I won't ever find a girl to live life with. Well, that's a useless worry, because even if you don't want to, you will find one. Because that's the way of the river. That's life. Life moves on, and you're moving, and there's so many things in this movement of life that you come to contact with. Whether you want it or not, you are part of this movement of life, and you're bound to meet things that you didn't plan on, you didn't expect, you didn't know it can or you will. but you're part of being subjected to this flow of life. So you'll know it when you see it. But just because you can't see it right now, you can't say, oh, I wonder there will ever be one. It's like standing in front of the ocean and you look at the vast ocean and you see no ships. And you say, there are no ships in the ocean. But there is. There are only no ships in the ocean part of the field of vision. There are only no ships in the part that your field of vision covers of the ocean. But there are ships in the ocean that you cannot reach that far. You cannot see. Your field of vision does not extend that far. That's why you don't see the ships. Therefore, you conclude there are no ships. There are no ships in your time and space. There are no ships in your field of vision. But there are ships in the ocean, and they are on their way towards you. When they're close enough, you will see it. But concluding that there is no ships in the ocean because I can't see any ship in the ocean, that's very limited vision about this topic. So, this business of what you said is totally bullshit. Don't believe it and don't function on it. You continue your life, do what you want to do, what you're about to do, accomplish what you want to accomplish, set out the goals that you want. On process of doing these things, accomplishing these things, there will be things that happen, and then will you notice it, and then you make the right decision, what you want to do or what you don't. Oh, I had my chance in the life earlier and I blew it. There's no one chance of this kind of thing. No, stop. Don't sum up the whole experience and the abundance of opportunity in life to one relationship as there's just what? The life's butt was open and she fell out and she's the summation of the experience of her life in this journey. That's it. She concludes your experience in life, all the opportunities that ever could exist for you. Her? That's how important she is? Really? Come on now. Don't be like that. Like no one can replace my ex. That's a really bullshit thing to say. It's like saying no one can replace this ship. There are better ships made every day. You just haven't come across it. It doesn't mean they don't exist. Oh, I had a ship, the storm took it. I don't think any ship would ever, measure up to it. Bullshit. The technologies and better ships and better material, better ingredients, so on. So there's so many amazing women out there with better mannerism, mentalities that could suit your needs and suit your mentality itself, more compatibility, so on. You cannot sum up the whole experience and abundance of opportunity in life to one experience or one, journey or segment of the journey. It's a long journey. There's so much things available. Just haven't come across it. That's it. That's all you have to think about. Don't be so certain about the nonsense that because you don't see enough any ship in the ocean, concluding, oh, there's a conclusion. That means stop looking for conclusions. Observe. At this moment, there is no girlfriend for you. Yes, okay. But that's it. At this moment, you have no idea when you step outside of your apartment and go for coffee, you meet someone, or a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 6 months from now. You have no idea. You cannot tell me you know that, because if you knew it, you'd be a very rich man. Everybody would line up to find out, hey, can you tell me about my future? All right. Um, Tommy says there is something popping up on the microphone. Can you guys hear me okay, or is it a problem? Can you let me know, guys? Hagnavaz, age 24, from Pakistan, says, when somebody come in front of me, I feel insecure. It's my own thoughts, but how can I get rid of it? Well, think of them who they are. Do they have 3 feet or 4 eyes? Or are they having 2 ears, one nose, a mouth, 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 legs? Which means they're no different than you. They got to get up in the morning, they shit, they have to, and they eat breakfast, and they go out. As glamorous as we are and we want to be, but this is what everyone has in common. So don't be impressed by people just because they appeared in front of you. Be impressed with their behavior, be impressed with their knowledge, be impressed with their intentions, or disgusted with it. Either way. But don't just simply because somebody shows up in front of you think that they're any better than you. Why? How? So, if they're like you, Harnavaz, then they have the same fears, they have the same shortcomings, they have the same concerns, they have the same hopes, they have the same aspirations, possibly. They're hoping for things, they have the same needs. They need to eat, they need to drink, they need to sleep somewhere safe, they need to be safe. All same. It's just you think that the facial expressions or posturings that they have could have any interpretation in words that could introduce them as different than you are because they supposedly represent more confidence, which is means someone who actually walks around like this, it means he's actually fearful more than you are. Because a person who's not fearful will not be cross-faced and always trying to impress others. He'll be normal looking, doing his own life. So anyone that actually impresses you by facial expression, you can be damn sure that that person has got some kind of a fear, some kind of a limitations, and is trying to cover that up by posturing or look very angry or serious. I'm a thinker. You're less than me. Why? Because I think I'm less than you, so I'm fearful. So I'm putting up this front. It's all bullshit. So don't fall for that. And anytime anyone shows up that somehow you lose your, focus on what we just talked about, just imagine them naked with their underwear, nothing else, no shoes, no nothing. And look at their feet. They've got feet, human feet, and they've got no, no, no clothes on, and they look vulnerable. And then you can see that they got nothing over you, not at all. All right. OXE says something that I don't understand what it is and what your intention is. And I would like you not to, even though if you're using it in good way, it's not appreciated. So we don't want to disrespect any or use any words that could have, questionable connotations, even if it's in good spirit. So don't do that. I don't know who you are. Make sure you introduce yourself, your age, gender, and who you are. All right. And E says, I'm blessed that I got to talk to you today. Well, I'm pleased that you got something out of it. I'm delighted and thank you for being here. And I hope that it was helpful to you. By the way, I will upload our program here after this in an hour or so. So if you guys want to review it, it'll be here. Nagendra Babu says, I have pure OCD and addicted to sexual thoughts. Please, how can I overcome? Well, let's see, this is a long discussion. I can't just. I'm good, but not that good. So you need to watch the videos that I have on this channel, or you can go on my site, mind@6truth.com, make an appointment, and we'll discuss what's concerning you one-on-one on Skype. And again, everybody, please don't forget, I need to know your age, gender, and where you're tuning in from. All right, it's 1 hour and 27 minutes. It's time for me to end the program. I have another appointment soon coming on Skype, so I need to prepare for my Skype appointment. In the meantime, I'd like to say I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. And just one moment. OXC says, Maron, I'm Chris, 20, from Mexico. I appreciate your HOCD talks. Now, my question is, how or what do I say to a woman I would like to get to know in public? Well, anything appropriate, naturally. You obviously are a gentleman, a 20-year-old, and you are wise enough to have educated yourself about HOCD and whatnot. So that means you're intelligent, that you don't fall for the brain's tricks. And you know that you're not the brain and brain is not you. Therefore, the thoughts that the brain conjures up is not representing you. So you're smart about that. So you can be smart about what's appropriate when you want to approach a woman, to make sure that she's not uncomfortable and make sure that she feels safe. Your approach should be appropriate in a proper place and be gentle and polite. So there is nothing else that you need to know, but making sure women in your presence feel safe, feel respected, and be friendly. That's all. And that should work. Just introduce yourself, says, hi, this is Chris. I thought maybe we can get to know each other. If she's up for it, she says something that would be pleasant. Or if she's not, she says, no, I'm busy or I'm not interested. Okay. Then you appreciate that and thank her and move on. That's it. There's no tricks involved. All right. And we have Kuro says, have a good day. Okay, thank you. Now it's time for me to say I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. I look forward to our next live stream. And don't forget, you can go on my site, mind@6truth.com, and make an appointment for a Skype consultation, and we'll discuss what's concerning you one-on-one on Skype. In the meantime, be good to yourself and to the others. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Subscribe on my channel, visit my channel, and go through the videos that you might be interested in. Mind@6truth.com, making it one step away to talk to me one-on-one on Skype and discuss what's concerning you. I'll talk to you soon.